Hey, dear friends at Salem Lutheran. It's a beautiful evening here as I'm recording, so I thought I'd go outside, see the nice trees behind me, and maybe even see a bird land on my bird feeder. It's a joyous day, and thought I'd take the advantage of the weather and come on outside. Beautiful autumn day here in Minnesota. Hope you're enjoying it too. I want to say thank you to all of those of you who helped supported our scholarships in Guatemala and Tanzania. That's a wonderful gift to those young people. It's a way to move forward in their world. It's a gift that's treasured and is precious to them. So thank you from them to you. I know that they thank you, and we'll see some of those thank yous come up, and we'll post those on our Facebook and our website pages as well. And as we move from our scholarship drive, we're also going to be moving into our stewardship time. Now, stewardship's a year-long endeavor. It should never be something that we set aside on the back burner and not think about. It's a stewardship of our time. It's stewardship of our neighbors and how we care for them. Stewardship of our environment. There are many things that we're called to take care of, and we should be mindful of those all year long, including our finances. And the month of October is oftentimes the focus is on the financial part, because without those finances, your church wouldn't be operating the way it is today, and we want to say thank you for those. Our theme this year is going to be Cultivating Salem's Culture of Generosity. And that is an exciting title. Thanks to all those who are working hard on the stewardship committee to make these things happen. But we're also appreciative because the ministry of Jesus happens, and you're going to hear from some folks during the next coming weeks and what this means to them, having this family here at Salem Lutheran, but along with that, the ministry and the purposefulness that we have in serving Salem Lutheran. A couple of other announcements. Our Bible study on Thursday has been temporarily suspended until further notice. We have some issues that we need to take care of with the COVID deal, and we are addressing those, which leads me to the next statement about worship. We will continue worshiping outside in the month of October. I know last week was a bit chilly. I know some of you had to wear your long johns, but this week promises to be rather nice and rather warm, so similar to what I'm feeling out here outside in our beautiful backyard. We will always be continuing now online worship. Somehow or another we're going to have that presence. But it's looking more and more that online is going to be what's going to be with us for some time to come. We're already planning on how we're going to do online All Saints Sunday, how we're going to do online confirmation, how we're going to do online Christmas services and such. And though that's a heartbreak to many of you, as it is to myself, I have not missed too many Christmases over the past years. I remember many years ago when I was still in Wisconsin, I got very, very ill around Christmas. It was the only Christmas I could remember missing, and it really was an empty feeling to miss that worship service. But we're going to try to provide something that will help that will fulfill your Christmas Day and your Christmas Eve. So if we happen to be that things get better, they find a vaccine, well, maybe we'll be inside. But right now we have to plan for both, and we're moving forward with that. And that's a bit of a comforting word, and that is the word we're going to hear from our Apostle Paul today. He writes this letter to the Philippians, and that's going to be the sermon text from Philippians 4. Paul writes a lot of harsh letters. You know, you read his letter to the Galatians, and it's pretty tough to swallow at times, though we get some of our wonderful theological principles from the book of Galatians. The letter to the Philippians is much more like almost like a brotherly talk, or a fatherly advice, or an encouragement from a good mentor that we've had, and bit of a fireside chat. It takes on a much different demeanor than many of the other letters that Paul writes, and the comfort and encouragement goes a long way. We know this if we've ever worked with kids. A word of encouragement makes them feel good about themselves, makes them perform a lot better, and just gives them a lot better disposition on life when they're appreciated and encouraged. And that goes for us as well, not just for children. We like to be encouraged and nourished and comforted along the way. And it goes a long way with not only individuals, but even corporately. When we think about an organization like Salem Lutheran, I can tell you, we were wondering in March if the floor was going to fall out, and we were going to have to close the doors. We had no idea what was going to happen when church had to be closed down, as in the building. But the people at Salem responded, and not only did the floor not fall out, but we are really in pretty decent shape here financially because of your generous giving. And that means the ministry can continue. And you're going to hear from a few people over our stewardship drive that'll talk about why that's important to them. Not only the community that we have, because the community is very important to us, especially now, but also the purposefulness about being able to serve Jesus in a global way, in a local way, and make a difference in the world with our gifts and our talents, our resources. And so, good job, Salem. I think you have really, really responded to the challenge. And we will have some more challenges ahead, but we will continue, and I take that in the light of Paul's letter. And so the Sunday text comes from the 4th chapter. Many of you are probably familiar with these words that will come up, but I'm going to start a little bit earlier in the chapter from the reading that we have on Sunday. It begins with a little bit of a conflict. I plead with you, Euodia, and I plead with you, Syntyche, to be of same mind in the Lord. Yes, I ask you, my true companion, help these women, since they have contended at my side in the cause of the gospel, along with Clement and the rest of my co-workers, whose names are in the book of life. Even in the midst of this conflict, Paul is very encouraging. Just because of the divisions doesn't mean your name has been erased from the book of life. In fact, it is there. And it's interesting to note that these first two names are feminine names. They're women. Paul oftentimes partners with women in the ancient world, which is really unusual because in the ancient world, women were often subjugated to their male counterparts. So it's a really encouraging thing to hear. And not only that, he adds the name Clement in there. Now, we're not positive, but we're pretty sure this is the same Clement that wrote epistles in the 1st century. If you Google Clement, you can probably find those and probably recognize a similar format to Paul's letters. But he goes on to say, and this is the part I think you're probably most familiar with, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving. Present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. What a comforting word. It's an interesting thing when he says, rejoice in the Lord always. The Greek word can mean rejoice or farewell. And in fact, they can kind of have a dual meaning here because this is the end of the letter here. So in the sense, there is a rejoicing in the end of the letter, but also an admonition to rejoice. And it's a bit of a benediction. In fact, sometimes you'll probably hear this used in the benediction. We'll use this sometimes at the end of a sermon. And there goes my phone. Sorry about that, folks. I'm reading off my phone. And then he talks about the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding. Interesting thing about this. He uses a military term to guard the peace. And even though that may seem to conflict, there is oftentimes that sense that God guards us in that same type of way. But again, there's this real sense of encouragement to not be anxious about anything. This is a day that we are anxious about a lot of things. And we must be in that situation to bring our anxieties to prayer and petition and thanksgiving for what God has given us. I think about you're watching me on a video here through the internet. What would have happened if 20 years ago this pandemic would have hit? We would not have had this way to communicate with you. And I think that there's some thanksgiving that needs to be offered for being able to have this opportunity to connect through the internet. I'm not sure what would have happened had the pandemic hit 20 years ago, but nonetheless, there are some things that we can be encouraged about in this time. And I think about the amount of time people are spending on the phone calling and encouraging others is so important. And so that's the letter that Paul leaves us. This is going to be the text for the sermon on Sunday. And I leave you with Paul's goodbye. Paul's goodbye is like that Scandinavian goodbye. It just doesn't seem to end. He says, "Finally, beloved," and these are the Greek virtues extolled oftentimes that you'll see reading other writings like Socrates, Plato, and stuff. "Finally, beloved," Paul ends, "whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard in me, and the God of peace will be with you." So I leave you with that hopeful word. The God of peace will be with you. Amen. I will see you on Thursday. Thanks for watching today. And of course, our Sunday online and outdoor worship. Be still and know the Lord is your God.